The enigma of the pyramids has fascinated us for centuries, and now a South African has come up with a theory that draws a line from these ancient monuments to Stonehenge and the secrets of the origins of mankind itself. There are places on our Earth that are shrouded in secrets, mysterious monuments of ancient civilizations. Theories of why, how, when, and by whom they were built abound. What message of our past is encoded in these structures?
I think the big thing in this message is an obsession to portray the origins of humankind. Well, the people who built these great pyramids, the people that make up the bulk of religious texts, people that came from the skies, the celestial boats of Egypt, Ra, they would have had, obviously, the technology to space travel, therefore build this equipment, and yes, we are the descendants of those people.
Carte Blanche broadcast a remarkable story on the pyramids 6 years ago, which sparked Wayne's interest. The program was based on Robert Bauval's book Keeper of Genesis, in which he alleged that the 3 pyramids of Giza linked to the 3 stars in the Orion Belt.
Not at all. And I was one evening with a few friends sitting on a dune in the desert, and one of my friends was a navigator, and we were talking about his sailing, and he said, let me show you how I use the stars. He said, one of the most important stars to look at in the sky is the bright star Sirius, and let me show you how you can find it. And he said, if you look here, here is the constellation of Orion. Here are the 3 belt stars that run in a row, and if you follow them, if you follow a line downwards to the horizon, you will see the star Sirius. And suddenly I looked at these 3 stars, and I was looking at them, and he said, well, actually I told you they're in a row, but you probably noticed that the smaller one is offset. The word offset did it. The minute I heard offset, I've been thinking, what is the offset of the 3 pyramids? Why is the 3rd pyramid offset from the other 2? And the 2 images merge in my mind.
Looking further, he discovered that the ancient Egyptians had given 2 other pyramid sites star names, and that there appeared to be a correlation between their sacred River Nile and the Milky Way. Were they symbolically trying to replicate regions of the sky here on Earth?
Wayne had a feeling that that was precisely what they were trying to do. He knew that there were many more pyramids along the Nile and wondered whether they too formed some kind of correlation with the stars.
And I decided to get out an atlas. I was lucky to have reference books close by, and no computers at that time, but ended up reproducing the maps on a grand scale. Take all the pyramids of Lower Egypt and take the entire Milky Way as a whole and put them next to each other and compare. That's as simple as it was.
Wayne was astonished when he saw at a glance that his layout of 63 pyramids along the Nile could be superimposed exactly on prominent star positions in the sky along the Milky Way. The top pyramid at Abu Ruash represents Sirius, and the pyramids are laid out with incredibly accurate geometry. The southern hemisphere stars are also included, so in effect the pyramids represent a complete circuit of the night sky around the Earth. The detail is remarkable. Even the size of the stars is reflected in the size of the pyramids.
Some that are so small that you need advanced equipment to see. For example, take Andromeda. When you see the zoom in on Andromeda, there are little group stars around the main sequence stars. And those group stars are even in the same position as smaller pyramids around the pyramid ruins in Saqqara.
These small stars are not visible to the naked eye. The ancients who built these pyramids must have had advanced technology to see into space.
One could argue, though, that given the billions of stars in the sky, there would be an endless permutation of points of light that could be linked to the layout of the pyramids.
As somebody seeing this for the first time, I challenge them to look at the distances, the angles, and the sizes, not just all 63 being perfectly in position. It's the whole clear picture. It's probably a 1 billion to 1 chance.
If the pyramids were built in a specific layout, the obvious question to ask is why? Wayne was determined to find the answer.
The journey then would take me into other pyramid cultures.
His first stop was Angkor Wat in Cambodia, where he found that the pyramid-like temples were also built to represent a star map. Few know that Japan also has its own pyramids. This grassy mound is the Kitora Kofun pyramid. Although Wayne did not find a layout of pyramids here, he did find an interesting drawing on the ceiling of the tomb.
They found a star map. It's not really known to the world, but what really excited me about the star map was the depiction of a cluster of stars in the shape of a thigh of a bull. And this rang some bells in the back of my head.
In the research that Wayne has done through books and via the internet, he noticed that there were many unusual references to the Pleiades. They are a group of stars that form the shape that many refer to as the leg of the bull. And curiously, they are found behind the head of the bull in the Taurus constellation.
Homer mentions this cluster of stars in the Odyssey, and the Bible has 3 references to the Pleiades. But it seems that there may even be much earlier records of its mention.
When scientists saw the 17,000-year-old cave painting of the bulls in Lascaux, France, some thought that the black dots may represent stars. In that interpretation, the 3 stars of Orion are just underneath the chin of the bull, and the Pleiades is the cluster above the head. Wayne also found many Sumerian scroll seals well over 5,000 years old, with the same cluster of stars in the sky. Egyptology, it seems, is also obsessed with the Pleiades.
From this point onwards, we knew there was something very important to find what was so special about this thigh.
Wayne went to Egypt to see if he could find out more information why these stars were so important to the ancient cultures. In Luxor, he found a stone engraving that seemed to unlock more of this mystery.
It was in the Senma tomb in Luxor where a star map of a very different kind was in play. There were 2 versions of it, one using mythology and the other one using astronomy. Particularly the mythology part of it, it had the leg constellation, and it also had a star just offset from it. And from this star, the gods came from. All the gods are shown in the picture as well on the terra firma on Earth. I think it's very likely that this is pertaining to an arrival of these gods from the star.
To see if there were any other references, Wayne retraced his steps back to the Abusir pyramids that represented the Pleiades along the Nile. In the same place as the mystery star in the Senmut tomb, they too point to an old temple called the Abusir Sun Temple,
which was a vertically sided pyramid. Obviously, it couldn't stand up to the last few earthquakes we've had. It's a pile of rubble now.
This is a recreation of what the temple would have looked like. Wayne thinks it was built to pay homage to a star or another solar system near Earth. Why would it have a platform for a celestial boat? And the same theme is repeated again in this Sumerian clay tablet.
On that star depiction is a man inside a disc controlling some kind of lever, and he is actually in the place of a star. There's a little star depicted right next to the disc at the exact same gap again. It is a Pleiades, you'll see by the depiction as well. It has the right amount of stars, the right sizes, and it kind of points again to the star.
After Egypt, Wayne went to England to look at another site he felt may reinforce his theory, Stonehenge. These mounds, also called barrows, are situated a little way from the stone circle. According to Wayne, they were built to replicate the shape of the Pleiades, and the Stonehenge circle fits in exactly the same place as his mystery star. 4 completely different sources, 2 in Egypt, 1 in Sumeria, and another in England. What are they trying to show us?
Wayne believes that all of these star maps from ancient civilizations around the world are trying to show us the place where humanity came from. He says it's something similar to the way that we identify Earth on the satellites that we shoot up into space.
Liftoff.
To identify where the satellites come from, the manufacturers have attached an identification plaque onto it. It shows where Earth is situated in the solar system, and also the male and female forms. Wayne argues that this plaque shows exactly the same logic behind the star maps he has found, a need to identify where we originate from.
The importance is the statistical value of this whole theme showing up in all different parts of the world that shouldn't really be related. Isn't it obvious and logical that they're depicting where they came from? The people that colonized this world come from that spot.
It's a bit hard to accept that beings from outer space came down and populated our Earth. On the other hand, given the vastness of the universe, one has to consider the probability that there's some sort of life out there is quite high.
Well, I'm sure the universe is full of life. I'm sure that's what the universe is for. It's a place for life to express itself and to develop and to grow. So I'm certain that there is inhabited planets all over the place in the universe, full of people just like you and me, wondering what the meaning of their lives are.
Graham Hancock is an avid Egyptologist and world-renowned author. Carte Blanche broadcast a program featuring his book, The Mars Mystery, in which he attempts to link the destiny of the red planet and our Earth.
Back in 1976, the Viking orbiter took lots of photographs of the planet Mars, but 2 of those photographs, separated by an interval of 35 days, of the Cydonia region in the northern hemisphere of Mars, showed what looked like an enormous face. It's in fact about 2.5 miles long, half a mile high, surrounded by a series of artificial structures, most of them in the form of pyramids. That's what they look like. It doesn't mean that's what they are. It could just be weird geology of a kind that we do not experience here on Earth.
Would these supposed pyramids also fit into Wayne's star map theory?
So having found all the others and then seeing the Mars images I was expecting, now what are the chances of this being the Pleiades? It just hit me on the first visual that this is too good to be true.
The curious geometry of these mounds also made an impact on Graham Hancock.
16 kilometers from the face lies the so-called DNM Pyramid. 1,000 times larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, it stands nearly a kilometer high and has 5 sides, not 4. It is surrounded by a city containing 4 smaller pyramids.
What's intriguing about the photography is that mathematical relationships are indicated amongst these different monuments. The recurrence, for example, of the angle 19.5 degrees between and within structures repeatedly. This is not the kind of thing that one would expect nature to do. It's the kind of thing that human beings have done on Earth, and God knows who did on Mars.
Wayne has an unusual interpretation of the 5-sided pyramid.
It maps out the human code very mathematically. It's not a coincidence. It's just too beautiful to be scoffed upon. That code also pointing to this face image. It seems so inevitable. This is the human code. That is where it comes from.
Like the 5-sided pyramid on Mars, Wayne says the circle at Stonehenge also represents the human genome. According to him, both the Stonehenge circle and the face on Mars are in the same place as the mystery star on his star map layout. There's been much controversy surrounding the photograph of the face. After its release, NASA said it was just a trick of light and shade, but Wayne does not agree.
Thanks to the computer age, we can now add on color, we can add on the right shadow and lighting, all from correct data that was from previous images of the Mars face area.
When Wayne enhanced the face on Mars, he thought that because of the long chin and a bit of sediment under the nose, that perhaps it was actually a representation of a bearded man. Is this what the beings that came to Earth looked like?
If we were to travel into space, after a couple of light years, the sun would look like a small star, and the planets that make up our solar system wouldn't be visible. So for Wayne to prove his theory, he would have to find a star in the small area of space that the Mars face depicts.
Bill Hollenbach is an astronomer and runs the observatory in the Cradle of Mankind near Johannesburg. He was fascinated by Wayne's theories.
These star charts were drawn up thousands of years before inverted commas civilized man, and this I found quite intriguing.
The probability of finding a star similar to our sun in that small area was very, very slim. In the whole of the night sky, there are less than 100 stars that fall into that specific category. Wayne pored over star catalogues and after a couple of months identified a star catalogued as TYC 181721. He asked Bill to verify his findings. This is the current position of the star that Wayne thinks might be the mystery star, but at the moment it's not quite in the right place. Wayne and Bill decided to go back in time and check the star's movement. Astonishingly, it starts to move directly back to the area of the mystery star. At 23,000 years, it rests exactly on top of the position where the ancients told us we would find it.
I was absolutely astounded when it actually moved exactly into position. That blew my mind completely. I could never imagine it would be so accurate.
For that star to go to that exact point, what Wayne was looking for, I mean, it's a chance in a million. So the odds are too high to be coincidental.
The star is in our own backyard, astronomically speaking. It is between 15 and 400 light years away. Wayne thinks this could lead to a new interpretation of the biblical concept of man's genesis.
The name in the Old Testament for the creation, for God, is Elohim. Elohim stems from a dual syllable Hebrew text, Elo meaning people, and Him is from the sky, from the heavens. People, not one person, and many people from the sky. And there are some Sumerian texts that use the same Elohim context and say they lived on the land.
If these people or gods had the ability to travel through space, Wayne believes that they would not have built the pyramids and ancient monuments with ramps and pulleys, but would have used their own sophisticated technology.
Given that there are star maps on Earth and one on Mars, Wayne says that these beings from outer space colonized both planets. He also believes that Mars had an atmosphere and oceans and was once a beautiful planet like our own.
In Revelations, right in, I think it's chapter 21, it mentions the first Earth was destroyed and lost its oceans. In NASA findings recently, the Mars planet had ocean beds. How can a planet lose its oceans?
A growing number of theorists believe that Mars was struck by a meteor that created an impact crater 2,000 kilometers wide, destroying the whole planet. The oceans would have poured into the exposed iron mantle, and it would have oxidized, giving the planet its red color. Wayne surmises the Earth's biblical flood was at the same time from the same cause.
We have it written in more than 500 accounts in all ancient civilizations, according to Graham Hancock's research, of a massive cataclysmic flood, and life starting fresh again after that. So any technological material, writings, libraries would have been destroyed, and human nature would have had to start again like cavemen.
Even if there's just a grain of truth in this theory, it puts a whole new twist on the evolution of mankind. Could these beings from outer space be the missing link? Well, it's pure conjecture at the moment, impossible to prove or disprove.
I respect what Wayne is doing. People are going to try and shoot him down in flames. That I can tell you. But it takes somebody to be unconventional, to bring something to the foreground, to get attention to it.
Wayne, with the help of his partner Birgit, has written a book called The Hidden Records and is negotiating to have it published.
If people feel uncomfortable about this, they can moan at me and say that I'm crazy, but let them come with something that's more logical, more reasoned, and more referenced. And I'll gladly put my story aside. It's now going to be up to the scholars. Let them, before they quickly moan at me and say that I'm a crackpot, let them now nitpick at this. Let them see what the real truth is.
And what do you think? Vote now in our viewers' opinion poll. Our question tonight, do you believe that Mars was once inhabited by intelligent life? Vote by using your remote, call 082-288-2002, or go to our website.
This is the area of Cydonia on Mars. There's the Mars face, the five-sided pyramid, and the grouping of ruins which we call the cluster that we believe matches the Pleiades stars. Now what I've done here is I've taken a transparency simply by going over all the detail on this photograph and marking circles over all the anomalies, even the small ones, the Mars face. This area here, you'll see those little bits and pieces. Just have a relook at it again. That is what the transparency looks like. We have the Mars face targeted. That's the most important part. The other detail here we're going to see on the star map what is special about that position. So let's take this transparency, which you know is an exact match with Mars. We're going to look at the area of Taurus, and to find the Pleiades in the night sky, you go to Orion and follow the 3 belt stars through Taurus, and you find the Pleiades. It's a common astronomical little trick that the ancients knew very well about, and they've shown Orion also finding the way through to something special in Taurus. Let's zoom in now on the Pleiades. Here's our transparency now. We put the transparency over it, and you'll see why this theory is so exciting. It's actually an amazing duplicate of the stars. I don't know if the camera can pick it up clearly, but here is our Mars face area. Can I tilt it? Is it all right? It's all right. Okay. All these stars fit by magnitude with basically the size of the anomalies. Even some of the other stars in contention here have anomalies matching. There's a grouping down here that seems to match that other grouping on Mars. But more importantly, let's see what star comes into the position of the target. Now we know that that target is directly in place. I'll take the transparency away. We'll now zoom in this area. So let's look at the target area. Under magnification, I'm going to lock in on this star and run back in time. Now we need to find what star is in this area as we go back into time. I'm going to run back in hundreds of years per second, starting now. Watch the small star. There it goes. Running back now, 1,000 years ago. That's 0 BC. Now we're going back to 3,000 years ago. It's over here. 4,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago. So it's 4, 5, 6,000 years ago. It's in that position. It's moved from there in the exact direction that we're anticipating. What's so important about this little star? This is our sun-like star that we're looking at, and it's 16 light years away, 15.74 to be exact. And this amount of time needed to get to exactly being in position is 17,000 years ago. In 17,000 years, it gets exactly into that position. That matches the Mars face. That is our conclusion. 17,000 years ago, that area on Mars was very, very important, and it seems to revere a sun-like star being a place of the gods, a place of humans colonizing this place on Mars. And this is more than likely in reverence of the colonization from that star. That's it.